When you see this man on a show, you know it's a big-time event. A champion, a proud Miami South Floridian, an American top team staple, pillar, and one of the baddest fighters on the planet. Thank you, Jorge Masvidal. There he is, brother. So we've got such a big event coming up. And this is why we're talking today.
First, let me say thank you for the introduction. That was insane. I've been doing that for years. That was insane, man. I hit home. Let's go.
Yeah, Gamebred. Got to bring it for the Gamebred.
Did Dan Lambert put you up to that?
You know what? Maybe he paid me a few extra dollars. But no, he didn't. He didn't. So this is so cool, Jorge, because Miami is finally getting UFC back. 2003 was the last time it's been down here. And it's going to be April 8th, UFC 287. Tickets are on sale. It's going to be at the Miami-Dade Arena, home of the Miami Heat, and home of Jorge Masvidal on April 8th. And it's going to be so cool because your career, correct me if I'm wrong, your MMA career started around 2003. You and American Top Team really have helped build South Florida as an MMA community.
Oh, yeah, 100%, 100%. American Top Team, me are just pillars to the South Florida MMA. And circling back to the event, I was just 17, about to turn 18, or maybe I just turned 18, but I think I was 17 because I wasn't an adult yet. And it was a UFC, and I went to that event. And I remember saying, I don't know when, but one day I'll bring this event back here. And that was my first live experience. So at first I was overwhelmed because these guys, I was 17, 18 at the time, but I had from like 12 years old to like that time, which was 7, 8 years, it was like all I consumed was UFC. You know, so I knew each and every one of these guys that were on the card. Everybody was competing. It's like, that's all I did. I was a fanatic of it. As like a fan, it was, you know, an amateur. So when I was there first, it was the nostalgia being at my first few event. But once that settled in and everything, I remember looking around and saying, I'm going to bring this back to Miami one day. And that one day has just come, April 8th. So what are we waiting for?
You know, it's so interesting you mentioned that because, and I could totally understand this. When that event came, Rich Franklin was on the card. Matt Hughes was on the card. Robbie Lawler was on the card. I was there too. Me and you were one of the few people that were at that actual event.
Sherk was at the event. I thought, not at the event, Sherk fought.
And the thing was, Jorge, and Dana White was so right on this. They only drew very few people to that show. It was sad because it was at the arena. And nobody showed up for this huge event. And he said, I'm never come back to Miami. But then the process started. You start fighting. Dan Lambert, Conan, American Top Team started to come around later and build and grow. And as I mentioned, now you're going to be there. There's not going to be many empty seats when you guys are there. And you're going to be on that show April 8th.
I guarantee you, be no empty seats. It'll be sold out, I think, rather quick. And I'm hoping we break gate records as well, you know, because we got to not only show the UFC that we're sold out, but we get right to it, you know, right away, you know, because that's what it is on every other market. And at the end of the day, I want them to keep coming every year. So what does that mean? That means that we have to sell the tickets right away because every other place in the country, they're gone. They're gone. Forget about it. You know, so we gotta bring that same type of speed. And I say that because in Miami, me included, we're all very last minute culture, right? We're like waiting to like from some miracle to happen or somebody to like, oh yeah, you got those tickets for free? Okay. You know, that's how it is in Miami. It's a big, like, it doesn't matter who's coming to town. It's always kind of like that. So if we can send a strong message that, hey, we got this event sold out in no time, that'll be breaking records all across. Because as we know, it's like Miami's that late culture, minute up, day up, you know?
It's the 305 walk-up.
305 walk-up, yes, sir.
I always call it for all the events here. We all come at the last minute, but we go. But that's the thing. Hey, UFC was in Sunrise, Fort Lauderdale at FLA Live Arena.
Yep.
The main event, that had to change. There was no titles in line, but they drew a good crowd. And again, because of the influence of American Top Team, they were able to get the fans into that event. And I think that opened up Dana White to say, hey, we can bring these events to South Florida now, and now we're going to have to spend Miami. Did you attend that show? Do you remember?
Which one?
It was at the BB&T Center. Now they call it Florida FLA Live Arena, where the Panthers play. It was a few years ago.
Who was the main event in that one?
You know what? It was Jacare Souza, and he was supposed to fight Romero, but Romero canceled out.
No, not Jacare Souza. It was Jack Herman, I thought maybe. No?
Oh, was it Jackerman? And then
Jack Herman versus Joel.
Magnuson.
Then Joel got out and somebody stepped in and fought Herman. I'm forgetting now who it was that fought Herman.
Wasn't it Magnuson?
Yeah.
That stepped in and he upset him. He won. But it was it showed that they even had a fan interaction beforehand where you could meet the different fighters outside. They did some things like that. I remember that too. And the crowd loved it. And it was a well-attended event. But it just shows how South Florida is elevating itself.
Definitely. It's not the same as before. I think it's going to be, we're going to show it in this event that we're going to get right to it. It's going to be sold out, and let's keep it moving that way. The UFC keeps coming here, and we keep bringing them here every year, and we have to make this a staple. They have to come to Miami. There's so much hot blood in Miami in particular for it not to do amazing. So I'm not even worried about that. The card is stacked from top to bottom, not just my fight. The main event fight, I would pay out of my own pocket, and everybody knows how I earn my pockets is by fighting. So my money means a lot, like to all of us. And I would go out of my way to fly wherever I had to in the world to sit in the front row seat for Israel. That fight, Izzy, that fight's gonna be insane. The first one was crazy. I don't know this. I don't even know. I'm just glad that I'm gonna get to watch it live and for free. I'm just gonna right after my fight, I'm gonna casually go grab my seat in the front rows and just watch these two animals go back at it again.
Hey, what do you think about your fight? And I wanted to ask you this part of it too, Jorge. When an American top team fighter is fighting a Sanford MMA or Killcliff FC fighter, it's local, ties there, but the gyms are in South Florida, and you're fighting Gilbert Burns, does that add a little bit more to it or no?
I mean, definitely. But this is on a personal level. I'm not speaking on American top team, every one of us over there, because a lot of us is just like, it's just another fight. It's competition, We want to crush everybody near us, obviously, and we want to assert that dominance, especially in our own territory and backyard. But it's like never personal. Like we really don't care, because we're also, as a team. This is why I say personally, my opinion is slightly different than this one. As a team, we know we are the best team in the world, and that's how it is at American Top Team, and that's how we feel, and the numbers don't lie, But and on a personal level, yeah, I definitely don't want to lose to nobody else from South Florida, from this gym or that gym. I want to break all their faces, I want to kick their asses every single time.
Hey, might we see someone like D-Wade, Shaq, Bam, Jimmy Butler, anybody? Might we see them there supporting Jorge Masvidal?
I think I'm hoping, man, there's gonna be some beasts coming through, to check your boys, support me out. I think it's gonna be a great event. I'm pumped, man. I'm excited. I've been training long before I got the fight announced. I was already training like if I was having a fight, and this is it's a great opportunity for me. I couldn't put myself at a better time and place to represent myself, to represent my city, my team, and just go out there and give it all I got. It's been the last last 2 years on personal and professional side. So like this year, I feel going forward and the adjustments I've made is that I'm going to get one of my best years of my career, period. And this is like, let's see if that's true or not. Because that's the awesome thing about fighting. We're going to find out right now if somebody's talking shit or saying the truth. And come April 8th, it's either like I got to hang these gloves up or we're rolling the dice all the way until we get that fucking belt. So let's go, Miami. You know where I'm from. Fucking dog over here, man. And then, just in case, because I know people love violence, I do have a show April 1st, boxing. Have you heard about this? Did you hear about
this? This is new to know. This is new to me. I knew you were doing the MMA up in Kissimmee and all over, but this is new.
I have a show with the who's who of MMA and boxing. All the bout agreements are signed. Everything is done. It's at the Milwaukee Bucks Arena, April 1st. You know a man by Roy Jones Jr.?
Oh man, yeah. I think I've heard of him.
You heard him? We got Roy Jones Jr. fighting. We got Roy Jones Jr. fighting boxing against Anthony Pettis, Anthony Showtime Pettis. This is live in Milwaukee.
How the heck did you get Roy Jones Jr. though? This guy, multi-athlete, champion boxer, even played basketball. Even played basketball at a professional level. How did that work out real quick, Jorge?
Great business mentor and friend of mine, Dean Toole. Long time association with Roy Jones Jr., Roy Jones Jr. Promotions, Roy Jones Jr. His whole team and staff, his management group as well, because they're he's not his manager, but they have very close ties. And then also with Roy Jones Sr. Dean is very cool. He's taken a lot of fighters there in the past to get trained by Senior. So Dean's very involved in the fight scene, and it was like, you know, me and Dean match all these cards up, and we'll just be sitting there at night talking, and we're like, would this be the craziest fight ever if we got like Roy Jones Jr. to fight Anthony Pettis? And I'm like, yeah, but that's not gonna happen, because this was like 3 months ago that we started working on this path to get to it. And lo and behold, the stars fell in place, and we have a great show. We also have somebody else you might know. We got Jose Aldo. You heard of him?
Yeah, I've heard of Jose Aldo.
One of the greatest featherweights that ever lived, if not the greatest featherweight. You know, and I don't gotta sell it to you. We all know the reflexes and speed, power, agility that he has. I got him boxing in my boxing promotion, which it's such an honor, because just to be in the room with that guy, I'm so honored by him, because I you know, we were coming up around the same time, you know, kind of like same in age, and I was always like, man, Aldo could do it all. He could wrestle, he could strike, he could submit you, and I was always like in awe of his talent. So now that he's gonna come boxing, and he chose our promotion to do it in Gamebred Boxing, it is like, let's fucking go. And do you know who he's fighting?
Give it to me. Give it to me.
I'm going to tell you the name, and then I'm going to take a bite of this burger because I'm starving. I just got back from training. Jeremy Stevens.
How do you guys do this? I don't know how you guys pull these things off. This is crazy. You got, and it's going to be in Milwaukee. First of all, you got Jeremy Stevens, who's unbelievable. Jose Aldo, Anthony Pettis, and then you get Roy Jones Jr. on the card too. This is great. You're doing this big boxing event. I should have in my intro. Now in my intro, and we're going to wrap this up, Jorge, but in my intro, I should have mentioned businessman, entrepreneur as well, because you're doing MMA fights that you're doing as well, that you're running those shows. Now you're doing the boxing. But Jeremy Stevens, too, this is incredible that you're able to put this all, you and your team put it all together.
Wait. Don't cut me short. I still got another fight in there. I got many more fights that are good, but I got another one that you might know. Maybe. I'm going to take a chance here, okay? You heard of Vitor Belfort?
Vitor Bell. Yeah.
Vitor the Phenom Belfort, the 2-3-time lightweight champion of the world, some of the best hands that we ever saw in MMA, versus Jacare Souza.
Yes. Yeah.
In boxing.
It's crazy, man. I went to about the Triller boxing event down here that they had, where they had Tito Ortiz. But you know what? The fighters you're getting on there, it's going to be so much more just into it. Those guys are getting into it and all. So, I mean, the one I went down here was pretty good, but it was just like, it's different. It's a new ball game when it comes to the boxing and getting the MMA fighters involved.
I got another guy in there. It's an up-and-coming beast. Was trained under Roy Jones Sr. Guys, like, you got to see him fight, because we matched it up for a reason that he's on the card with Roy Jones Jr., because he has such a similar style, and he brings his power and speed very similar, like Roy Jones, how he brought it. So his name is Devin Cushion. I would definitely keep my eye on this guy. He's a featured bout, because he might not have the name like the rest of the individuals I mentioned, but this kid could box and can put lights out at any second. He's fighting a very tough Argentinian that's challenged for belts multiple times. So this is like a huge stepping stone for him, especially for him going in the right direction where he wants to go. So definitely somebody to look out for in that fight as well.
Him, Vitor Belfort, Jose Aldo. Yes, him, Vitor Belfort, Jose Aldo, Jeremy Stevens, Roy Jones Jr., Anthony Pettis. The list goes on. That's already a stacked card. And Jorge, I'm going to thank you much for spending your time as always. I appreciate it. I got to close with one last thing. Go ahead, but I got to close with one last thing. Go ahead.
It's on pay-per-view, and it's also on UFC Fight Pass. You get the digital rights there, or you can go to linear, standard pay-per-view, Comcast, DirecTV, all that money.
From Milwaukee, and what's the date again? April
1st.
There's no fooling around. There's no fooling around
And
in
it's
that
not,
date.
and it's
You
not no
explain it
joke.
right now.
And it's not no joke. And secondly, not actually, firstly, I'm gonna kill somebody April 8th. So only tune in if you want to watch me catch a body.
That's what Jorge Masvidal. And Jorge, I got to wrap it up with this. April 8th, UFC 287, you against Gilbert Burns, stat card coming home to Miami, your hometown at the Miami-Dade Arena. But hey, AEW Wrestling is going to be back here in Sunrise, Fort Lauderdale later in April. They're going to be back, and I'm wondering if you and Dan Lambert are going to be coming down, doing your thing, and maybe kicking Chris Jericho's ass again.
I can't tell you that I'll be in the show, involved in the show, but I can tell you as a fan, I'll definitely be there. Now, if they got time to include this guy, because they know that when I come for these wrestlers, none of that fake stuff. I'm trying to hurt them for real. Ask Chris Jericho. Ask anybody that get in the way. I'm trying to hurt them for real, and they know it. So if they want that heat again, it's cool. But I don't think they want to see me back in there after what I did. Tell you the truth, I'm gonna go as a fan because I love their shows. They got the rowdiest shows when it comes to pro wrestling. So I'm gonna be out there definitely just to show love. But I don't think they want this heat over there. And they ever since I did that to Jericho, they don't, they're kind of worried about it.
They don't want to mess around anymore. And Dan Lambert, man, is great on the microphone, man. He is awesome on mic.
Dan is the man, literally.
All right, Jorge, thank you so much. We'll see you in April. All great. Thank you.
God bless, brother.